So we've got the fourth trading session of the week starting today, the 12th of June. It's a public holiday in Nigeria, by the way. It was called the Democracy Day. Of course, it all went back to the June 12 elections of 1993. That election, that was somewhat inconclusive, at least in terms of declaring the late MKO Abiola as the president of the country after that election. And of course, everyone remembers what follows, the whole idea about democracy, pro-democracy groups, the whole shutting down the country by oil workers, followed by banks and other institutions, then the whole issue around the military era until 1999, some 6 years later, when Nigeria's current democratic process actually began. So it's Democracy Day in Nigeria today, June the 12th, so the market's closed. Just before that, Wednesday, the NGX All-Share Index was 114,659, down by 14 basis points, despite gains by MTA, Nigeria, Dangote Cement, and a few other big names on the counter, as well as Transcorp, 1.11%. The banking sector led the market, down in the main by 0.4%. UBA, ETI, Ecobank Transnational, as well as GITCO. That's Nigeria's story. Go to the rest of the frontier Africa. The Kenyan market was up 2.66% in the morning after the central bank decided to hold interest rates, to cut interest rates by a slim 25 basis points to 9.75%, taking Kenya's benchmark rate into the single-digit territory. And of course, the Egyptian market was up by less than 0.1%, while the GSE was down by 0.26%, led by financials. Then, of course, the NSE in Kenya was 2.68%, measured at earlier. Safaricom shares, 21.2 million shares traded on Wednesday. The BRVM in Cote d'Ivoire was 0.42%. In the green territory. That's taking the composite well above the 300 reading. Those are the numbers across the equities market. Zimbabwe was down by 0.25%, by the way, just to throw that in. What's making the headlines in East and Central Africa? Thursday morning, China says it's offering zero tariff access to its market to 53 African countries, excluding the Kingdom of Eswatini in Southern Africa. And the Central Bank of Kenya has trimmed the country's GDP growth to 5.2% from 5.4% previous for this year, while the World Bank also revised Kenya's growth for this year down to 4.5%, shaving that from previous 5%. In corporate news, MTN Uganda is looking to spin off its mobile money or the Momo subsidiary into a new company in a cautionary announcement made to investors and the market on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Ethiopia is throwing in a 15% fuel tax and launching a vehicle circulation levy, part of fundraising or what we call revenue generation planned by the Prime Minister Abiy's administration. Safaricom in Kenya is being raised. The target price has been raised to 25.36 shillings, Kenya shillings, at AIB Axis, and forecasting 12.2% upside for the stock from its June 10 price levels. We've seen Safaricom shares jump significantly after the Kenya's CDCS says the total shares of Safaricom now dematerialize about 40 billion units in the depository system. And finally, in that region, the EBRD, that's the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, is setting up an office in Nairobi later this year to serve sub-Saharan Africa, even as the EBRD looks to step into western part of the continent, Nigeria, Senegal, and of course, the Republic of Benin. What else is jumping Thursday morning? Let's go to West Africa. Proper with the EBRD story. Nigeria is reporting total trade up roughly 6.2% for the first quarter, January to March. The Statistics Office released those numbers yesterday, 36.024 trillion naira for the first 3 months of the new year. And the World Bank has said trade tensions from the US tariffs is set to drag global GDP down to 2.2% for this year. Yesterday, President Trump says a deal has been reached between representatives of the United States as well as China, but our final decisions on those tariff discussions will be between him and President Xi Jinping of China. The market took that a bit yesterday. There's still a bit of concerns as President Trump says he's going to set his own unilateral tariffs. Of course, remember the July 9 deadline. Mali in West Africa is looking to ban Ukrainian imports after cutting ties with the Eastern European economy. President Boakai of Liberia has granted NOCAL the full control of 4 offshore oil blocks in order to power the country's energy future. That's part of the latest in Liberia's energy sector. And the World Food Prize Foundation has appointed Dr. Akumi Adesina, the outgoing president of the EFDB and the winner of the 2017 World Prize Foundation, $250,000. He's been now been appointed as one of the to the Council of Advisors of the World Food Prize Foundation. We say congratulations to the EFDB chief. And Ghana says the economy posted 5.3% growth in the first quarter. What else? Let's move on to Southern Africa just to get a couple of news in. Of course, we're starting from the South Africa Savings and Investment Association has appointed Namesh Cooper as the new chairperson of the body, while Capitec, one of the banks in South Africa, is looking to launch a new lending product that's targeted on small and medium enterprises. Multi-choice numbers not looking really good. Lost 1.2 million subscribers for last year. And that swung the pay TV operator to 800 million rand full year loss. And of course, there's also currency depreciation on his numbers if you look at big markets such as Nigeria and Ghana. Namibia says he's looking at $122 million to refinance his Eurobond, which is maturing in October, while South Africa's PPC, the cement giant, posted a full year EBITDA up 28%. That's roughly 89 billion South African rand, while its headline earnings per share came in at 0.40 rand, despite nearly 2% decline in revenue. But of course, the PPC unit in Zimbabwe contributed roughly $20 million to the EBITDA numbers for the South African cement giant. Let's get out of the Southern African region and finish off in the northern corridor of Morocco. King Mohammed VI and President Trump are set to announce a major deal between Air Maroc and Boeing. The news, according to Reuters and quoting other sources, is that the two presidents want to strike a deal that will get Air Maroc, the national airline of Morocco, to purchase quite a chunk of Boeing aircraft, and that deal is expected to be announced anytime soon. In the meantime, the TGCC of Morocco and SGTM says they've gotten $320 million on the table for Casablanca's Grand Stadium. Morocco is doing everything possible to host effectively the 2030 FIFA World Cup. And the World Bank says is fueling Casablanca transport revitalization with $350 million investments, while the banking system liquidity in Egypt was about 12.7 trillion Egyptian pounds in the month of April. And that's the data from the central bank. And finally, Algeria wants to boost exports to Libya in a fresh $3 billion annual trade target between the two northern Africa's economies. And those are the headlines. Thursday, the 12th of June. I am Bosin Amofa. Do have a pleasant day and see you again soon.